Okay, I think for the person who just joined, I'll let you have the worksheet again. Because you don't have an answer key prepared, I'll have to prepare one, and I'll send it to you today after today's class. Okay, so okay, so we'll just we'll just wait. Okay, we'll start with the first. Please start with the first 5 questions and take 10 minutes maybe. It's now 5:07, and okay, just give me a moment. I think we just have some people joining in, and I just let them have the. Yeah, here's the worksheet for today's class. Please start with the first 5 questions. Again, please start with the first 5 questions, and you can take 10 minutes. I think it's 5:07. We'll start at 5:17. If somebody isn't able to access the paper, please let me know. Um, have you finished the first five questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think they aren't very hard. Okay, so what does implicit mean? Implicit means that there's implicit and explicit, right? Implicit means that it can be inferred, but not in a straightforward way. It can be understood, but not in a straightforward way. It's not all that obvious, right? So it's not, but it can be. So that's what implicit means. It can be understood, but not in a straightforward way, in a convoluted way, or in it's not expressed in a direct way, but it can be understood by the people involved. That's the dictionary meaning of it, right? It could also mean complete, but here I think that's it is in that sense that we should look at the word implicit. So we're looking at statements which may be understood from uh, so so you have five options and they give you a statement, or a small dialogue, and they give you five options, and then you should look at which of the options are implicit in the statement, meaning, or implicit from the statement, meaning from the statement you can understand, it can be understood that this is right. Okay, that's what implicit means. Okay, so now let's look at this. So you are hereby appointed as a programmer with a probation period of 1 year, and your performance will be reviewed at the end of the period. Okay, so that's the line uh, from an appointment letter. Um, and so the assumptions are the performance of an individual generally is not known at the time of appointment. Is that implicit? Is that
Yes.
implicit in
Yes,
this
sir.
Yes,
statement?
Yes.
sir.
It is implicit, right? How about this? Generally, an individual tries to prove his or her worth in the probation period. Is that implicit?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I don't think so, sir.
Okay. If it's not implicit, then look at it. Then look at the statement. It says, you are hereby appointed as a programmer with a probation period of 1 year, and your performance will be reviewed at the end of the period of confirmation. So, what does that mean? It means that
The person becomes a permanent employee of the company once his probationary period is over and the company is satisfied with his or her performance.
yeah, so it is understood that an individual generally tries to prove his or her their worth, right? So individuals try to prove their worth in during the probation period, because if they don't do this, I think that is I think that is implicit too. So that is
But sir, it
understood.
doesn't apply to all individuals, right? There could be a few individuals who don't actively try to prove their worth. So
Okay,
can
so
is that a
okay,
It's an
universal
assumption, right? We cannot, it's not a conclusion. So we can assume the thing.
So it
uh,
has to be a universal truth.
whichever is following assumptions. So yeah, it is an assumption, but see, yeah, you say generally an individual tries to prove his or her worth in the probation period. If that is wrong, assume that it is wrong. Then can they ask? Then what's the whole point of having a probation period? If that is wrong, if it is wrong for an individual, if it is wrong that an individual does not see, if this is wrong, what will happen? Generally, an individual, okay, just make it, instead of tries, make it does not try. Okay, then what happens? Generally, an individual does not try to prove his or her worth.
The statement becomes invalid.
It becomes invalid. The statement becomes invalid, right? So if
Yes,
an,
sir.
if it's normally, I mean, just take a fictitious scenario where people don't deliberately try not to perform, um, tries not they try not to perform well during the probation, and there's no point of having a probation period. So the assumption here is that you have a probation period, and in this, and if an employee cannot perform well in the probation period, then it's quite obvious that the employee won't perform during a normal period. So you can treat the employee's performance during the probation period as a kind of a touchstone, or a benchmark to assess uh, the employee's performance during the rest of the time, because there is stress. So if you can't perform when you're under monitoring, then you're obviously not going to perform when you're not under monitoring. So generally, so an individual tries to prove his or her worth in the probation period. If that is wrong, um, that is to say, just change this word probation period into under monitoring. So if the employee doesn't perform well under monitoring, it's quite possible that the employee doesn't perform well when he or she is not monitored. So I think that is implicit, because if it's not implicit, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I can see a point. I mean, let's say the employee is too good, so the employee need not bother to prove his or her worth, but still they are consciously or unconsciously proving their worth.
Yes, sir, makes sense. Sir, I do have one question though.
Yeah.
Could you please explain the difference between assumption, inference, and just for some clarity, because those are two very confusing terms.
Okay, assumption is okay. So you have a statement here, and then you have they give you two assumptions. And see, let's read this. In each question is given below is given a statement followed by two assumptions numbered 1 and 2. So you have to consider the statement and the following assumptions and decide which of the following assumptions is explicit in the statement. So an assumption is it need not be true. For example, the performance of an individual generally is not known at the time of appointment order or appointment offer. So that's an assumption. And so you have a statement which is some kind of a law, and then you could think of the assumption as a case that is being put forward. So you have two assumptions, and you could think of them as two cases that are being put forward. Now you have to see which of the following cases is implicit in the law, or which of the following assumptions are implicit in the statement. By implicit, like I said, it means it can be understood or inferred. In a way, inferred is not the same as, I mean, I think implicit and inferred are not the same thing. But implicit is if it can be understood, but not in a direct way, in a roundabout way. See, it says not expressed in a direct way, but understood by the people involved. That's the dictionary meaning of the word implicit. I think infer is you can make uh, a logical extension which can be made by anybody, not necessarily people involved. So infer is to form an opinion or decide on something that is true based on information that you already have. So that's the difference between inference and implicit. So here I think it's implicit. We mean that it can be understood. So the assumption here can kind of be understood from the statement. So you are hereby appointed as a programmer with the probation period of 1 year, and your performance will be reviewed at the end of the period of assumption of confirmation. So from this we can infer that probation is a way of assessing the programmer's ability. If this had not been the case, then the statement would not have been made. So now we look at the first assumption. The first assumption is that the performance of an individual generally is not known at the time of appointment. Absolutely true. If this is not explicit, then there's no need for a probation period. You can just directly give the person an appointment order. But the reason we have a probation period is because this assumption is implicit. Now let's look at the assumption two. Generally, an individual tries to prove his or her worth in the probation period. Even that is implicit. It's implicit because if this was not true, then there's no need to have a probation period. Again,
Yes,
there's no
yes,
need.
understood. Understood.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
sure. I think yeah, that is pretty confusing. Um, okay, now let's look at statement yeah, two. It is desirable to put the child in school at the age of 5 or so. Now let's look at the assumptions here. At that age, that is 5 years or so, the child reaches appropriate level of development and is ready to learn. I think that is implicit, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That is implicit. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's pretty implicit. Now let's look at two. The schools do not admit children after 6 years of age?
No, sir.
No.
Excuse me, sir, just confirming what is the answer to the first question?
The first question, the answer is they are both implicit. So option E, both of them are implicit. Now let's look at this. So why is this not? See, it makes sense. So until it's desirable to put a child in school at the age of 5 or so, because at that age something crucial happens, right? Not because after that. See, if statement 2 were to be implicit, um, the schools do not admit children after 6 years of age. Had this been, it is better to put the child in school at the age of 5, or it is a
No, but
must.
even then, yeah.
See, it is a must. Had I changed this and say it is a must to put child, to put a child, it's a must to put a child in school at the age of 5 years. Okay, and now what would your answer have been?
Both are implicit.
Yeah, both are implicit. But now I'll just do a lot of control Z's and we'll just go back to that. And it's generally an individual. Oh Lord, wait, just this one. Yeah, schools do not. Yeah, sure, right. So it is desirable to put the child in school at the age of 5 or so. But now what's the answer? Now this is not implicit, right? The schools do not admit children after 6 years of age. That is not implicit because it's desirable, meaning that there is some quality with this age of 5 that does something to the child. So option A, at that age, the child reaches appropriate levels of mental development and is ready to learn. I think that's implicit. Whereas B2, the statement 2 is not implicit. I'm sorry, the second assumption is not implicit in the statement. Are you all okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now let's look at the third statement. So it says, in order to bring punctuality in our office, we must provide conveyance allowance to our employees. Okay, so that's a charge of a company's personnel manager. Personnel is what we now refer to as a human resource. Okay, so that's the statement in somebody's human resource manager. So they say that. So they say that to bring punctuality in our office, we must provide conveyance allowance to our employees. Now let's look at the assumption 1. It says conveyance allowance will not help in bringing punctuality.
Explicit.
No,
I
sir.
think that's explicit, not explicit. It's neither implicit nor explicit. It contradicts the statement,
Yeah.
right? See, explicit is not the opposite of implicit.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, explicit means it's obvious. For example, if you say I'm 30 years old, that's explicit.
Sir,
Yeah.
I read somewhere that implicit is something which is true and explicit is something which is false.
I'm not really sure of that. See,
Okay.
explicit means clear, making something easy to understand.
Okay, got it.
So I gave you explicit instructions not to touch anything. So that's an example, right? Okay, so let's look at one. Conveyance allowance will not help in bringing. That contradicts the statement. So that assumption contradicts the statement. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Discipline and reward should always go hand in hand.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Would you say that that is implicit? Discipline and reward
Yes,
should
sir.
go hand in hand, meaning that if you want to discipline someone, you should reward them. So if you want punctuality, you should reward the employees for the punctuality. This is quite tricky. It's not all that simple. See, they say in order to bring punctuality, so just translate that as if you want discipline, we must provide conveyance allowance. We must reward. So if you want discipline, you must reward. So that's the assumption. Discipline and reward should go hand in hand. So So that's the thing. So it's just to bring punctuality in our office, we must provide conveyance allowance to our employees. So if you want discipline, you must provide commensurate reward, right? So I think two alone is implicit. So option B is okay, right? Now let's look at statement 4.
One
Unemployed.
doubt, sir.
I'm sorry.
Doubt, sir.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So shouldn't we stay away from sentences that are too extreme, like the word always? Isn't it making too generic a statement?
Yeah, I
Not
suppose you could
necessarily
say that
relating to the
discipline
statement.
and reward should always go hand in hand. But
Yeah.
but even here, don't you think that they have a very concrete statement being made? They say that to bring punctuality in our office, we must provide we must provide conveyance allowance to our employees. Suppose this has been suppose this had been we must provide conveyance allowance to the top tier employees alone. Then yeah, two. See, suppose this had been we must provide conveyance allowance to the top tier employees or the topmost tier employees. Okay, just say top tier employees. Then what would your answer be? Would two still be implicit?
No, it wouldn't.
It's quite tricky. See, it says I say suppose I change now I say in order to bring punctuality in our office, we must provide conveyance allowance to our top tier employees. Okay, so only our top tier employees, not to normal people, just the top tier employees. So that's suppose the personal manager made this statement. Then would the assumption that discipline and reward should go hand in hand? Would that still be implicit in this statement? Suppose if this had been discipline and reward should go hand in hand for top tier people, yeah, but not generally. But because they are making a general statement here, it's not just top tier, but to our employees, to all our employees, right? So because it's all our employees, I suppose you could say that because it says that to our employees, meaning all our employees, and because I suppose you could say that, and it is a concrete charge. I suppose you could
So
say
I
that,
just have another doubt.
yeah,
So I mean, to be honest, providing a conveyance allowance doesn't really make sure that the employees are punctual, right? It's not a given that when you provide a conveyance allowance, the employees are going to be more punctual. Isn't that right?
yes, it is.
So, here the concept of reward, I don't really understand how reward is in the form of conveyance allowance. It's more of a necessity, to be honest. It's not exactly reward. Uh,
It's not a necessity. See, what they say is that if you want punctuality, you must give conveyance allowance. If you don't give conveyance allowance, you can't expect punctuality. See, just a moment before we get to this, was the previous doubt clear? I think it was Mega, right?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are we okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now coming to Keshav. See, if you want punctuality, you must provide allowance. If you don't give me allowance, then you can't. If you don't give your employees any conveyance allowance, then you can't expect punctuality. But giving or providing conveyance allowance does not guarantee punctuality. So the statement does not talk about guaranteeing punctuality. It only says that in order to bring punctuality in office, or I suppose you could rephrase that.
so they're appealing to the moral nature of all their employees and saying because we're giving you money, we expect you to come punctual.
Something like that, but it's not exactly like that. See, they say that
Because even if you give me, suppose you have your own company, I work at your company. So I come late anyways, and then you say we need to, in order to bring punctuality in our office, you have to provide convenience allowance. So you give me say 100 rupees a day for my convenience, but I still come late anyway. So it's not really the purpose isn't served. Is what I'm trying to say.
Hmm,
So the concept of reward here in terms of convenience allowance is not really justified.
No, just an allowance. No, so if you come early, you get it. It's like provisional.
see, we must
Oh.
provide conveyance allowance to our employees. So it is probably, look, so what they're trying to say is that if you don't provide conveyance allowance, then you can't expect punctuality. If you do provide conveyance allowance, then I can question you. If you come late, I can ask you what's wrong with you. I'm giving you conveyance allowance and yet you come late. But if I don't provide conveyance allowance, then I can't even ask you. I think that's what they're trying to say. So if I see, they say that if you want your employees to be able to, if you want to hold your employees accountable for their punctuality, then you have to provide them some conveyance allowance. If you don't provide them conveyance allowance, this may not be true. No company in the world does this. This is a fictitious case. So suppose they say that. So the statement here is that if you expect punctuality, or rather, if you want to hold your employees accountable for punctuality, then you must provide allowance. If you don't, then you can't. So if I if I give you 100 rupees, like you said, and if you still come late, then I can ask you what's wrong with you, why are you coming late? But if I don't give you 100 rupees, then I can't ask you. I think that's what this statement means. That's not, so it's not about right or wrong. That's what this statement says. And we have to stick to what this statement says and what these assumptions say. So I don't think we can question the the correctness of the statement. So it's a fictitious case. It's a purely fictitious. The whole thing is fictitious. So okay, so fine. Let's move on to statement 4. It says that okay, Keshav, you okay? To some extent, okay, fine. It doesn't matter, right? So okay, statement 4. Okay, question 4. The statement says that unemployment allowance should be given to all employed Indian youth above 18 years of age. So that's the statement. So just give it to all of them. So statement and the assumptions. One is they are unemployed youth in India. There are unemployed youth in India who need monetary support. Is that implicit? Yes, it is, right? If that weren't implicit, then there's no need to make the statement. So the whole idea is that unemployment allowance should be given to all unemployed youth. So if there aren't any unemployed youth, there's no point in making a statement. So we have to take for granted the probity of this statement. We should assume that the statement is correct. So we can't question the correctness of this statement. So the given statement is correct. So the statement that is unemployment allowance should be given to all unemployed Indian youth above 18 years of age. That's correct. Okay. So now let's look at the assumptions. If there are unemployed youth in India who need monetary support, yes, if this is correct, then this is implicit in that. No doubt about that. How about 2? The government has sufficient funds to provide allowance to all unemployed youth.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Very good. No. Suppose this has been given. See, I'm just going to change the modal verb should to has. Then what happens?
So then the second assumption would be true.
Then it would be E, right? See, very good. Right now the answer is only statement 1 is implicit, because should is a statement which means that it's a desire. You would use the modal verb should when you want to express desire or command. You should do that. You should do this. But it does not mean, it does not give us uh, a confirmation that this has been done. So suppose this had been instead of should, if I just remove the modal verb and just say has, I just give it a perfect tense. I just say has. Then what? Unemployment allowance has been given to all unemployed Indian youth above 18 years of age. Then yes, because it has been given, it means that the government has sufficient funds. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to give, right? So in that case, yes, it would have been E, but in this case, it is A, because only statement 1 may be implicitly is implicit maybe implicitly inferred from the statement. I think you have a new student. Do you have a new student, or do we all have the worksheet for today? I'll just provide the link. So in case we have a new student, please use that link to download today's worksheet, and please start with the question 6 to 10. Okay, so now let's look at question 5. So the statement says, if you trouble me, I'll slap you. A mother warns a child. Okay, so if you trouble me, I'll slap you. Just look at with the warning, the child may stop troubling her.
Yes, sir.
That's why she makes that statement, right? Otherwise, she wouldn't go and make that statement. So if she knew that the child won't stop troubling her, then why would she even make that statement? Okay. So all children are basically naughty. No, we can't infer that, right? Because it's just this particular child. Yeah, so I don't think that statement, that the assumption 2 is implicit in this statement, whereas statement 1 is definitely implicit. So again, I think you can mark option A. Right. So please start. Okay. All of us, new joinees, please start question 6 to question 10. I don't think you take 2 minutes per question. I think we can take 1.5 minutes. I think we'll take 6 minutes to solve 5 questions. So we'll start at 5:46 or 5:47. So please solve question 6 to question 10. Do we start? I think it's quite straightforward, right? Okay, let's start with 6. So the statement is the state government has decided to appoint 4,000 primary school teachers during the next financial year. That's the statement. The assumption is there are enough schools in the state to accommodate 4,000 additional primary school teachers. I think that's implicit in that. So that can be, so I think that is implicit in this statement. So I think that's okay. How about this? The eligible candidates may not be interested to apply as the government may not finally appoint such a large number of. That contradicts the statement, right? So I
Yes,
think
sir.
I think it's only A. Yeah, I think that's quite straightforward. A warning in a train compartment. So that's the warning. To stop train, put chain. Penalty for improper use, rupees 500. So the assumption is some people misuse alarm chain. That's obvious. That's implicit from this. On certain occasions, people may want to stop a running train. How about that?
Yes, sir. That's also implicit.
Yes, sir.
That is implicit because had this not been the case, then there wouldn't have been a chain at all, right? So on certain occasions, if people did not want to stop a running train, then there's no point of putting a chain there, right? So I think that's E then, right? Option E. The previous one was option A. Okay, so
So,
if it's
what was the fifth one?
the
The
fifth
answer.
one was the child. The fifth one was, yeah, I think it was option A because
Yes,
we can't say all children are basically naughty, right?
yes. Sir. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Right. So we were doing 8. Yeah, if it's easy to become an engineer, I don't want to be an engineer. How about that? I think we have your answers now.
Is it B, sir?
B. Okay. Any other answer?
So I marked D. D for Delhi.
B, sir.
E, sir. E for both.
Okay, so we have B for bucket, D for doll. Any other answer? And E for elephant. Okay, let's see. So if it's easy to become an engineer, I don't want to be an engineer. So what does that mean? What can you infer? I want to do something that's hard, right? So an individual aspires to be a professional now. I don't think that can definitely not be inferred, right? Because from this, see, an individual wants to be a professional. So that doesn't, we can't infer that from here. So we can't say that all professionals do hard things. It's quite possible that a professional doesn't do hard things because for that we have to define the word professional too. So, and also we have to assume that an engineer is not a professional, which again we can't assume. So this statement is definitely not implicit in this assumption is not implicit in this statement. This is wrong. Let's look at this. One desires to achieve a thing which is hard earned. Yeah, I think that's okay. I want to become an engineer. If it's easy to become an engineer, I don't want to be an engineer. If it's easy, that's the only problem, right? So this person wants to do something that's hard. So, of course, you could say that they use the common pronoun one. So they say one desires to achieve a thing which is hard earned. So
I have a doubt. Isn't the
yeah,
is the second assumption very general? Like in the statement they talk about one person, and then in the assumption they give it in a very general manner. I marked D. I don't think the second assumption is true.
okay. So you mark D and you had a doubt between D and B.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. So and with the second assumption, the only problem you had was they used one. So one desires to. Yeah, I suppose it's. I suppose, like I said, you should just assume that this is a kind of a public voice. The statement is kind of made by. It's a general statement, and so when you say one desires, so we talk about. So
So
assuming, yeah.
if the statement was, if it is easy to become an engineer, nobody wants to be an engineer, then I think the second assumption would be true. But here in the statement, they say, I don't want to be an engineer.
Okay, fine. See, first of all, one desires to achieve a thing which is hard earned. Now, one could refer to this person. You could always refer to yourself as one.
Okay, so
You could say, something like, one didn't want to wake up in the morning so early. The one could be you. You could refer to yourself as one. Of course, it's literally, and I don't think that is what they're doing here. I don't think that they're referring to this person as one. I don't think that, but you could do that. But I don't think that they are doing that. What they are trying to say is that taking this statement alone, forget the pronouns, forget the who is being talked about, taking this statement into consideration and assuming that this is the public voice, then can you say that anyhow, I'm glad that it's only between B and D that you have a doubt. So I think that's what the examiner wants you to do, you know. So just give the examiner what they want. Don't try to be too accurate, because I think at the end of the day, the idea is to get the thing right and move on, right? Nobody wants to stick with this. It's so boring. So I think that's what the examiner wants. They want you to look at this option and sort of mark it. So one desires to achieve things which is hard earned. That's what they want you to do. So just give it to them, and you know. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to 9. So it says that statement is that the concession is in rail fares for the journey to hill station has been cancelled because it is not needed for people who can spend their holidays there. So the idea is that if somebody can afford to spend their holidays at a hill station, then what's the point of giving them a concession, right? That's the statement. Any answers for this?
Yes, sir.
A, sir.
I marked A.
A. Okay, so I think all of us have marked A. So that's pretty simple. So the first assumption is that railways should not give assumptions. I'm sorry, should give assumptions only to needy persons. Yeah, I think that's kind of implicit, because they say that it's superfluous to go around giving everybody concessions. What's the point of doing that? So we might as well give just the needy concessions. That is implicit. So railways should not encourage people to spend their holidays at hill station. That is not implicit. Definitely not implicit. Now, suppose I said should give concession only to needy people. Suppose I had said the railway should not give concessions at all, as it cannot afford to. How about now? Now, what would your answer be? Would it still be option A, or would it be option E? Then again, because one is implicit, or is it either one or two? See, either one or two is right when only one of those assumptions is implicit. Meaning, if this is implicit, then this becomes not implicit, or this is not implicit, or if this is implicit, then this becomes not implicit. So now just take your time, take a minute, and let me know what your answer would be. If I would just change that to railways should not give concessions at all, as it cannot afford to. Let's read the statement again. It says that the concession in railway fares for the journey to hill stations has been cancelled because it is not needed for people who can spend their holidays there. Now, do you think that this is still implicit? Is this person against the idea of concession? Is the person who made this statement or the body that made this statement, are they against the idea of concession, or are they against the idea of giving concession only to people who can afford a holiday at hill stations? So how many of you feel that the answer is still A, and how many of you feel that the answer is now C, or how many of you feel that the answer is E?
Still A, sir.
Still A.
Still A.
Still A. Very good. It's still A. Okay. So we'll go back to question 10. Good. Okay. So the statement is the bridge was built at the cost of rupees 128 crores, and even civil bus service is not utilizing it. What a pity to see it grossly underutilized. A citizen's view on a new flyover linking east and west sides of a suburb. So the assumption is that the buildings of such bridges does not serve any public objective.
No, sir.
There has to
It's
be
only
some
B.
accountability. Yeah, I think that's quite easy, right? So there has to be some accountability and utility of money spent on. So that's what this person uh, is trying to say. So the building of such bridges does not serve any public purpose. Why is that not wrong? It is not because this person is only talking about one bridge. See, again, we can go back to what I think what Aditi had talked about here. See, this is one person's view. If it's easy to become an engineer, I don't want to be an engineer. And then she said, how can you use one? Because even though one, like I said, can be used to refer to this person, I think that the examiner here is, when they talk about one, they are referring to a general individual. So whereas here, they say the building of such bridges does not serve any public objective. See, this person is not against the idea of building bridges, right? This person's problem is that the bridge which has been built, um, which has been built at the expense of such an exorbitant money, is being underutilized. So the problem is the underutilization, not the fact that the bridge has been built, which is why this is wrong. Not because this person is kind of talking about a particular bridge, and this is talking and this assumption is talking about a general bridge. That's not the thing. So this person is not against the notion of building bridges. So he or she is against the notion of underutilizing built bridges. Okay, so good. So the answer is B. Okay, so I think we'll take 6 minutes to solve the next set of 5 questions, 11 to 16. Yeah, it's now 6 o'clock. We'll start at 6:06.
So can we solve the next 10 questions at once and then discuss it?
What I thought was we'll do the next 5 and then we'll probably do the next. I'm sorry, I was on mute. I thought we'll do the next 5 and then we'll do the next 10 together.
Okay, sir.
So
Because
actually, can we skip to can we do, because there's 3 parts to this, right? This is assumptions, then there's conclusion, and there's inference also. So can we do 5 from conclusion and
Okay.
inference also?
So what we'll do is we'll do them together. We'll do the rest. Look, we've done what? We've done how many questions now? 15, right?
10.
Okay, 10, and we have 33 questions. We'll do together. I think there's 1 hour to go. We'll do together. We'll do the whole thing together now. Okay, so statement is the government has decided to levy 2% on the tax amount payable for funding drought relief programs. Okay, so that's the statement. So the government has decided to levy 2% on the tax amount payable for funding drought relief. So statement one is the government does not have sufficient money to fund drought relief programs. Okay, let's first read the two statements. Statement two is the amount collected by way of surcharge may be adequate to fund these drought relief programs. How about the answer now? See, the government has decided to levy. What does levy mean? It means forego 2% on the tax amount payable for funding drought relief programs.
So I think it's either B for ball, or it might be C.
Okay.
It's
Is it
easy.
D, sir?
Both are implicit.
Yeah, E.
E. Why E? Why does the government not have sufficient money to fund the drought? Why would that be implicit?
Because that's why
When you say
they're
the government,
charging the extra 2%.
Yeah, it wouldn't be required if they had sufficient.
Yeah.
okay, so they have they levy 2% on the tax amount payable for funding drought, which is okay. So yeah, they won't levy a tax if they already have money. Good. And how about the other fact that so the amount collected by way of surcharge may be adequate to fund these. If it's not, then what's the point of collecting? So the surcharge is the 2% tax, right? So the government has, so they say that they're going to have a 2% tax on for funding drought. So they're going to have a 2% tax. So if it's not short of money, then why would it even see? If you say, as somebody said B, that only two, meaning that one is not implicit. So if it's only two, then why would they even bother to charge tax?
Yes, sir. I think I was wrong.
No problem. And again, so the surcharge is, if it's not, then they probably make it 4 or 6. The fact that they plan to make it 2 is because 2 is sufficient. Good. So now let's move on to the statement.
So what was the answer?
E, option E. Both 1 and 2 are implicit. They're both implicit. Are we okay as to why?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 12, the statement is detergent should be used to clean clothes. Okay. And the assumption is detergents form more lather. I don't think it's logically implicit. Detergent help to dislodge grease and dirt. Yes. 2 is obviously implicit. So 1 is not implicit and 2 is implicit. So the option is B. Very straightforward, right?
So why can't one be correct?
It forms more lava. That doesn't mean that it's going to clean. Forming more lava logically need not mean the same as cleaning, right? Now, when you talk about dislodging grease and dirt, yeah, then I know that that's implicit. When you say that detergents help to dislodge grease and dirt, then yes, I can say that it's implicit in the statement that detergent should be used to clean. But when you just talk about forming more lava, then I'm not really sure. Okay, so the statement is that it will be a substantial achievement in the field of education if one provides one school for every village in our country and enforce attendance So it's going to be a great achievement if you can do this. Okay, and now let's look at the statement. Children in villages do not attend school regularly. Providing school to every child, every village is desirable. 2 is obviously implicit, right? So they say that
Yes.
it's a great achievement. So 2 is obviously implicit. How about 1? I think it is implicit because they talk about enforcing attendance, and also they call it a great achievement, meaning that to provide one school for every village is not, and to enforce attendance is not a simple task. It is a considerably hard task, which is why they call it an achievement. And so 1 has to be implicit too. So I think both 1 and 2, I think that implicit. So I think it's option E. Both 1 and 2 are implicit. Okay, 14. So the government has decided to disinvest large chunk of its equity in select public sector undertakings for a better fiscal management. Okay, so it's going to disinvest large chunks of its equity. Okay, equity is the amount of money in select public sector undertakings for better fiscal management. Okay, so the amount generated through generated out of the disinvestment process may reduce substantially the mounting fiscal deficit. Is that implicit?
Yes.
Yeah, otherwise it wouldn't be better, right? I think that's straightforward, just a different way of putting the statement. It says that the government is going to disinvest large chunks of its equity in select public sector undertakings for a better fiscal management. So what it says here is that the amount generated out of the disinvestment may reduce substantially the mounting fiscal deficits. So it better fiscal management is trying to reduce fiscal deficit, right? Deficit is what you owe, to put it simply. So that's better fiscal management. I think that 1 is okay. Let's look at 2. There will be enough demand in the market for the shares of these undertakings.
No, sir.
Is that implicit? No, it's not implicit because they don't talk about demand for shares. I think that only option A is implicit. Okay, now the next
I have a
question.
doubt.
Yeah,
Then if it wasn't like, if there wasn't demand, they wouldn't like plan on selling it, right? Like, if there's no demand, the government wouldn't have wanted to sell.
but it's only disinvesting large chunks of its equity in public for better. It's not. It's only disinvesting, and it's probably disinvesting because the money from disinvesting it may reduce its fiscal deficit, and the very fact that it is trying to disinvest means that there isn't much demand.
Okay, so
Yeah, right. So the statement is never before such a lucid book was available on the topic. Okay. And some books were available on this topic, yes, because there's something to compare with. You can write lucid books on very few topics.
No, sir.
I think it's option just. I think only 1 is
Yeah.
only 1 is implicit. So I think it's option A. Okay. So 16. The statement: please do not lift while going down. An instruction on the top floor of a 5-story building. Please do not use the lift while going down. So while going down, the lift is unable to carry any load. That's one of the options. And provision for lift is a matter of facility and not of right. So what do you think the answer would be? Is it only option assumption 2, or is it assumption? See, definitely assumption 1 is wrong, because they say while going down, the lift is unable to carry any load. If it can't carry load while going down, then there's no reason to assume that it can carry load while going up. So then there's no point of having a lift there, right? So you might as well do without the lift. But the fact that you got a lift there, so it's a request to probably save energy or something like that, right? So provision of lift is a matter of facility to make it easier for you and not of right. Is that implicit? I think that is implicit, right? That is implicit. So we've got a lift there so as to make it easier for you to um, for you to use it, and not just because you could use it whenever you want to and however you want to, even though you cause a lot of loss. So I think that the option is going to be option B. That only statement 2 is implicit. Okay, just 17. I have not received telephone bills for 9 months in spite of several complaints. Okay, a telephone consumer's letter to the editor of a daily. Okay, so this person has not received telephone bills for 9 months. Okay. Assumption 1, every customer has a right to get bills regularly from the telephone company. I think that's obviously implicit in that statement. Now, statement assumption 2, the customer's complaints point to defect in the services which are expected to be corrected.
Yes, sir, it's implicit, right?
I think they're both implicit. So I think it would have been more general, just make it the plural. So you could say that the customers complain. So it's not just one customer, but every customer, a general customer, right? So every customer's complaint point to defect in services which are expected to be corrected by the service provider, right? So let's move on to 18 then. This drink can be had either as it is or after adding ice to it. An advertisement. Okay. Now the assumption people differ in their preferences.
Yes, sir.
Is that implicit? Yes, it is implicit. So some people would probably want to have maybe some Coke, some Pepsi or Coke with ice, and some people may want to have it without the ice. Yeah. So I think that statement 1 is implicit. And statement 2, some people will get attracted to the drink as it can be had as it is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I suppose it could. So suppose they choose to sell uh, packaged soft drinks. I think they're both implicit. Otherwise, the statement wouldn't have been made. Yeah, I think that's quite straightforward. It is option E. They're both implicit. Okay, so 19. Okay, so the statement. So the government has permitted unaided colleges to increase their fees. Unaided colleges to increase their fees. And assumptions of assumption 1 is that unaided colleges are in financial difficulties.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have permitted it, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's permitted it now, it means that it had not permitted it before, which means that there has been a new uh, kind of a contingency now, and that is probably the fact that these unaided colleges are in financial difficulty. So one can definitely be is definitely implicit in this statement here. 2 is that aided colleges do not need to increase fees.
Sir, no, sir. They haven't spoken about aided colleges, so we just
Yeah,
simply.
so just we can't. It's not implicit. So 1 is implicit. So I think we'll probably just say A. That only assumption 1 is implicit. Okay, so we'll probably move to 20. Hmm. Okay. So, and then it's conclusions. Okay. So, statement. Be humble even after being victorious. Okay. So be humble even after being victorious. So the assumptions are many people are humble after being victorious,
No,
and generally people are not humble.
yeah, I think it's B.
Any other answer before we stop assumption? Or are you all okay with B?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we'll start conclusion. So, and I think here, I think they give you a statement and two conclusions, right? Not assumption, but a conclusion. So, an assumption is a kind of a theory or a concept. You could think of an assumption as a concept, not a concept that is being tested. But a conclusion is not a concept. A conclusion is a final result. So it's the same thing as before. So you have to assume everything in the statement to be true. Like I said, the statement is concrete. Then consider the two conclusions together and decide which of them logically follows beyond a reasonable doubt from the the information given below. Okay, so I think you can probably take 6 minutes or 5 minutes to solve the next 5 questions, and then we will uh, move on to the rest.
So can we just do it along, like instead of taking time, we just do it like how we did assumptions?
I suppose we could, but I'm only afraid that we may fall short of questions,
Okay.
which isn't a problem. I'll probably just let you do the last 5, and I'll quickly fix you with an RC question. Shouldn't be hard. Okay, fine. I think we'll do that because you think that to be more effective. Okay, I think we'll do together. Fine. So the statement is in one day cricket match, the total runs made by a team were 200. Okay. Um, out of these, 160 runs were made by spinners. Right. Conclusions is that 80% of the team consists of spinners.
No, sir.
That's too bold a conclusion, right? The opening batsman was spinners.
No, sir. We cannot conclude.
Yeah, they both can't be concluded. Yeah, right. So I think it's neither one nor two can be concluded. So I think it's option D. Right. So statement two: the old order changed, yielding place to new. The old order changed, yielding place to new. To a new one. Okay. So change is the law of nature.
Yes, I think. I don't know. Yeah,
So
it
the
is the
old,
law of nature, but
yeah, that is true because see the old order has failed and then we have a new order. So there has been change. So we can conclude, and it's yielding to a new one. You could say change. Discard old ideas because they are old.
no, sir. We cannot conclude that.
So change is the law of nature. So the old order changed, yielding place to a new one. So definitely not. So discard old ideas. See, they aren't even talking about ideas. They're talking about an old order changed. It changed, yielding to a new one. So the order changed. So there was an older order. The older order has become a new order, but there is still order. So you could say that change is the law of nature. There's always change. That is, it does not suddenly vanish. It's not discarding the older order. The older order has not been discarded, but it has changed. So there is a difference between changing and discarding. So I don't think that we can infer two, but I think one is a very possible conclusion that can be inferred from the statement. So change is the law of nature. So just make the statement, follow it to the therefore, and see if the conclusions work. So the old order changed, yielding place, yielding to a new order. You could say giving place to a new order, yielding place to a new one. Therefore, change is a law of nature. The old order changed, yielding place to a new one. Therefore, discard old ideas because they are old. So clearly, two is not credible. One is okay. So I think is option A. Okay.
But
So 23. Yeah.
sir, aren't we extrapolating the statement a little too much?
I don't think there's a lot of extrapolation because see, if you could just say therefore, see, the order could mean so many things. It could mean a set of rules, or it could mean it could mean so many things. I'm not really sure. Or it could be something very simple like, but okay. So when you say the old order changed, yielding place, making place to a new one. So I think that there is, therefore, change is the law of nature.
So if we perceive it as a general statement, it makes sense. But if the old order was referring to something specific, then I don't think the first state change is the law of nature would work.
Right. Right. I think that. So what do you say that there's too much extrapolation? Okay.
Could be.
In that case, it would be D. Yeah, neither one or two is a conclusion. The key says A, and I marked D, but the key says A, so I thought that they wanted to do A. So I suppose that a better way to put it is may have been to make it just like, I think like you say, the problem is that they said the old order. So they're talking about a particular old order. Suppose I say old orders change, making
Yes, sir.
place, making place to new ones. Then do you think that is going to be A?
Yes, sir. Then it would work.
Yeah, I think you're right, because they said the old order because they used they used the article the specific. Yeah, I think that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so 23. Government has spoiled many top-ranking financial institutions by appointing bureaucrats as directors of these institutions. Right. So they spoiled many institutions by financial institutions by appointing bureaucrats as directors. So bureaucrats don't make good directors. So that's what we can conclude, right? The government should appoint directors of the financial institutions, taking into consideration the expertise of the person in the area of finance. Yeah, I think that is a very credible conclusion, right? Because so far it's been appointing bureaucrats as head of financial institutions, and the result has been bad. Therefore, it would make more sense if you could make people who are head of finance, who have more expertise with finance, if you could make them if you could appoint them, then it would be better.
So what if expertise isn't the problem that they're talking about? What if it's something like corruption?
Right. I think that, so yeah. So what you could say is that government has spoiled many by appointing bureaucrats as directors of this institution. So the problem is that there's something wrong with bureaucrats in particular.
Right.
So, are we really able to conclude that? Okay, let's finish. Go to 2. Let's see. The director of the financial institute should have expertise commensurate with the financial work carried out by the institute. The director of the financial institute should have expertise commensurate with the financial work carried out in the institute.
That seems like a better way to put it, sir.
Okay. But if this is true, then can you say that that is wrong? Government should appoint directors of financial institutions taking into consideration the
So I think
expertise.
it's E.
Okay. Taking into consideration the expertise of the person in the area of finance. Right, absolutely. I think that it could either be E or D. D is if, like Megha said, if it's neither, if the problem is not financial at all, but rather if the problem is with, yeah, like corruption or something like that, then there's no point in doing this. But I suppose here we can assume that this is to be true. Like they say, assume that this is to be true and assume that this statement is giving you all the information that you require. Assume that this statement is not withholding any information that you may require to form a conclusion. I think that is what they mean when they say you have to assume that everything in the statement to be true. So I think what they mean is that the statement is giving you all the information that you require to form conclusions. So suppose the statement, suppose the problem had been with corruption, then they would have talked about corruption. If you can make that assumption,
Yes,
I think that's how we have to, you know, sort of.
So basically, we shouldn't read too deep into it. Just accept
Right,
it.
I suppose, yeah, I suppose you don't read too deep into it and just try to get the answer right. Yeah.
Yes.
So I suppose in that case, I think the answer would be E, right? So it's going to be E because they both okay. I think that's what they want you to do, right? So statement population increase coupled with depleting resources is going to be the scenario of many developing countries in days to come. The population increase coupled with depleting resources is going to be the scenario of many developing countries in days to come. So the conclusion is the first conclusion: the population of developing countries will not continue to increase in the future. I don't think so, right?
No, sir.
I don't think so, right?
Contradictory, sir.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, it contradicts exactly, because if it's not going to, if it will not continue to increase, then yeah, there's no need to do this. Very good, right? So 2, it will be very difficult for the governments of developing countries to provide its people decent quality of life.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. Yeah, so I think this is the conclusion that we can infer from this, and yeah, I think that's okay. Right. So 25. The statement is prime age school going children in urban India have now become avid as well as more regular viewers of television, even in households without a TV. As a result, there have been alarming decline in the extent of readership of newspapers. Right. So prime age school-going children in urban India have now become avid as well as more regular viewers of television, even in households without a television. So they probably go to their friend's house and watch TV. As a result, there has been an alarming decline in the extent of readership of newspapers. So that's the statement. And they're also giving you the result of what, okay. So method of increasing the readership of newspaper should be devised.
So that's a course of action. Is that the same as a conclusion?
It's a course of action, yeah. Is that a conclusion? No, I'm not sure. I don't think it's a conclusion. Let's look at two. A team of experts should be sent to other countries to study the impact of TV on the readership.
No, sir.
They're both not conclusions, right?
Yeah.
They're both not conclusions. See, that's the conclusion. The population of a developing country will not. I suppose you could treat this. You could treat a course of action to be a conclusion. So that therefore, the method of increasing readership of newspapers should be devised. Is that the problem here? Okay, suppose you were to treat. Just think of this as an article, and a conclusion could be a course of action too. Method of increasing the readership of.
So I think by concluding something, they put the course of action as the next step. So I don't know. Can we put a course of action as a conclusion?
Okay, if you could, then what?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you.
Yeah, suppose you could treat a course of action as conclusion. Then would you treat this to be a
Mark A as the option.
okay? Any other answers? Because
Yes, so it definitely fits into the statements given. So
okay, as a result, there has been an alarming decline in the extent of readership of newspaper. So the conclusion is, therefore, method of increasing the readership of newspapers should be devised. Like I told you, for conclusions, read the statement and use the adverb therefore, and then read the other part of the statement and see if it fits. So read the statement. So let's just do it. The primary school going children in urban area have now become avid uh, viewers of television, even in households without TV. As a result, there has been an alarming decline in the extent of readership of newspapers. Therefore, method of increasing the readership of newspapers should be devised. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Or if you read the statement and said, therefore, a team of experts should be sent to other countries to study the impact of TV on the readership of newspapers. Does that make sense too?
Oh no. Why should we worry about the other countries?
Right. Because, like they say, this statement is true. So they say that the statement that they have become and that the result of young people becoming avid viewers of television is a decline. So I think it's only option A, right? So only this can be followed.
So I have a doubt.
yes.
Yeah.
But then, like, I'm not sure if it's right or not, but then isn't like the main point of the passage not that we have to increase the viewership, I mean, the readership of newspaper? Isn't it more talking about the television aspect, and it's talking about how, because of that, the newspaper? So we can't say that it's a conclusion that we have to increase the readership of newspapers.
Okay.
Right? Like,
So what you say is that as a result is seen as incidental. It's not the main argument, and the
Yeah.
main argument is that most children in urban India have now become avid viewers of television, and as a result, there has been an alarming decline in the extent of readership. So The conclusion being the method of increasing the readership of newspapers should be devised. So we can't argue that increasing readership could decrease television.
Yeah.
I suppose that could be argued too, that increasing readership. So I suppose if you could make it method of decreasing television viewership should be devised, then what? Method of decreasing TV viewership should be devised. Then what would your answer be?
Yeah, then it makes sense. Like both of them, it's like it's linked together, right? Or maybe like that also might not fit because just by reducing the amount of TV viewership, it's not necessary that newspaper readership will go up. So it's like what I'm trying to say is like I don't know how to put it, but then like I'm not sure how to put it. Like I'll just think and I'll get back to you.
Sure, there's no problem. Okay, fine. Okay, so what he is saying is, what Advait is trying to say is that the alarming decline in the extent of readership is not the central argument. It's only a result. And the main problem here is that the urban India have now become avid as well as more regular viewers of television, even in households without a TV, right? So that is the main problem. As a result of this problem, there has been an alarming decline in the extent of readership of newspapers. So what is the main problem here? We don't know what the main problem is. Suppose you had an option that says that a method of increasing the readership of newspapers and decreasing viewership of television viewership, then that would be most appropriate. But method of increasing the readership of newspaper should be devised. Is that the central problem? Or do they have a problem with the fact that children are watching TV? Or is the problem that the children are watching TV and therefore that has led to a result that has resulted in a drop in newspaper readership? What is the problem?
So I think the central problem is the readership.
If that is the answer, then yes, then it's going to be one or option A. If that is not the option, if they are simply have a problem or an issue with children watching TV, whether or not watching TV improves the child, then I don't know. But I think, yeah, I think that it's a very good point, but I still feel that option A, from my point of view, I think that option A is the answer. But I think that it is a very good point that he brought in, that Advait brought in. Okay, fine, thank you. We'll get back to this sometime later.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so statement here is that in Japan, the incidence of stomach cancer is very high, while that of bowel cancer is very low. But Japanese immigrate to Hawaii. This is reversed. The rate of bowel cancer increases, but the rate of stomach cancer is reduced in the next generation. All this is related to nutrition. The diets of Japanese in Hawaii are different from those in Japan. Okay, so do we get the statement? The statement is that so while Japanese are in Japan, so they have stomach cancer and they're more likely to have to face stomach cancer than bowel cancer. But when they immigrate and go to the US, they immigrate to Hawaii, not the US, to Hawaii, then the case reverses, right? So they're more likely to get bowel cancer and less likely to get. In one generation, this change happens. So let's see. So the same diet as in Hawaii should be propagated in Japan also. Is that true?
No, sir.
No, because then they'll die of bowel cancer, right? Yeah. So option 2, bowel cancer is less severe. Okay, that definitely can't be. I think that's a very straightforward question. Neither of the conclusions can be made, right? So I think that's pretty straightforward. D. Okay. So the statement now is the government run company had asked its employees to declare their income and assets, but it had been strongly resisted by employee union, and no employee is going to declare his income. So that's the statement. So the government-run company had asked its employees to declare their income and assets, but it has been strongly resisted by employees union. And right, and no employee is going to declare his income, right? So the conclusion one is that the employees of this company do not seem to have an additional undisclosed income besides their salary.
No,
Can that be
sir.
concluded?
If that was the case, they wouldn't have resisted the government.
Okay. Do not seem to have any additional. Okay, I don't think you can say that. Maybe they didn't want to because they thought it was an invasion into their privacy.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
That too can be said. So we can't be very sure. So okay, anyhow, that definitely can't be concluded. Let's look at two. The employees union wants all senior officers to declare their income first.
No, sir, there's no reference to that.
Wants all senior officers. I think there's no reference to. Okay, now suppose I were to say the employee of this company seem to have additional undisclosed, then what would your answer be? Would it still be D or would it be A?
A, sir.
Are we sure? If it's the employees of this company seem to have additional undisclosed uh, income besides their salary. So just read the statement. Like I said, the government-run company had asked its employees to declare their income and assets, but it had been strongly resisted by its employees union, and no employee is going to declare his income. Therefore, the employees of this company seem to have additional undisclosed income besides their salary. Does that does that
So
does that
it's a
sound?
possible conclusion.
It's a possibility, yes. Or it could also be can you say that it's a logical conclusion, that the conclusion has
No.
the conclusion has no logical pitfall? I
No,
don't think so.
can't.
Yeah, because like I said, that maybe the employees didn't like it because they thought they were thought the companies were trying to invade into their privacy, or they thought it was not a very decent thing for them to do. I don't know. Okay. Okay, 28. Monitoring has become an
I
integral
got
part.
disconnected. Could you please repeat the 27th answer?
27 is D.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so 28 is monitoring has become an integral part of yeah, has become an integral part of in the planning of social development programs. It is recommended that management information systems be developed for all programs. This is likely to give a feedback on the performance of the functionaries and the efficacy with which services are being delivered. Right? That's a statement. Let's read it once more. It says that monitoring has become an integral part in the planning of social development programs. It is recommended that management information systems be developed for all programs. So all programs should have a management information system. This is likely to give a feedback on the performance of the functionaries and the efficacy with which services are being delivered. Okay, efficacy is efficiency. Efficiency. Right. So all the social development programs should be evaluated. There is a need to monitor the performance of workers. What could an answer be?
Both, sir.
Both?
I'm
So I
not sure.
said B.
Uh, See, they say that it's become an integral part of in the planning of social development, and it is recommended that management information system be developed for all programs. Right? This is likely to give a feedback on the performance of the functionaries and the efficacy with which services are being delivered. Okay, so all social development programs should be evaluated. Yeah, I think that definitely follows, right? There is a need to monitor the performance of workers. How about the performance of workers? Can we fit that performance of workers into it is recommended that the management information system be developed for all programs. And this is likely to give a feedback on the performance of the functionaries. On the performance of the functionaries. So can we think of workers as the functionaries? And the efficacy with which services are provided. So what's the answer? One is definitely true. So it's either A or E, right? Any answers?
So are workers the same as functionaries?
I suppose you could treat them as functionaries. And if you would, then would that be an answer? Then what would your answer be?
Then both would be true.
Okay. Any other answer? Because a functionary is an official, somebody who has a function. Okay, let's see. So I think that the answer is E. They're both true. Okay. So 29, the TV programs telecast especially for women, are packed with a variety of recipes and household hints. A major portion of magazines for women also contain the items mentioned above. So they say that the TV programs telecast specifically for women are packed with a variety of recipes and household hints. A major portion of magazines for women and also contain the items mentioned above. Yeah, okay. Let's see. So women are not interested in other things.
No, sir.
I don't think that can be concluded. It's just that it's quite possible that these TV program directors and the major portion of the magazine and the magazine editors are very stupid people. That's possible too. So, an average woman's primary interest lies in home and specifically in the kitchen. Uh,
Sir, I don't know about average woman's primary interest, but most of the average women are at home and especially in the kitchen.
okay. Specifically for women are and a major portion of magazines for women also contain uh, the items. Okay, so yeah, like we saw, option one is definitely wrong, and option two is pretty confusing. An average interest lies in. I don't really know. I suppose I suppose I didn't want to change the question because you could get a question like this in an exam. So I don't know. I think that let's see. Let's see if you can change
So
the
what's
option.
the answer in the answer key?
I think the key says B.
Okay. So I
think what they mean is that by average women, what they mean is that the women for whom these are intended.
so I think that
I think by yeah, tell me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
I think not most, like an average like an average amount of women are at home and primary in the kitchen, and that is why the magazine keeps items like a variety of recipes and other TV programs. But we cannot justify the woman's primary interest lies at home.
Right. So suppose you could change this into something that is more sensible, and you could say that the women for whom these programs uh, and articles, etc., were intended. Um, okay, for yeah, for the women, uh, for whom these programs and articles were intended, their primary interest was lies in hope. How about that? Or just make it more, yeah. So the women for whom these programs and articles were intended, um, and then their primary interest lies in home and specifically in the kitchen. How about that, Nat? If
I
you
think
change,
maybe, I don't know.
So how can we infer what a person's primary interests are by just looking at their TV viewership, what they watch?
yeah,
Or
like
what
I
they
told
read?
you, just try to get the answer right. The examiner is going to be a jerk. There's nothing you can do about it. So I suppose I just probably mark B and probably give him the finger and just go to the next question. I suppose that's the best thing to do. Yeah, I suppose that the answer is B anyhow. Uh, okay, so the distance of 900 kilometer by road between Bombay and Jaffra will be reduced to 280 km by sea. This will lead to a saving of rupees 7.92 crores per annum on fuel. Okay, the conclusion one is transportation by sea is cheaper than that by road. Fuel must be saved to the greatest extent.
So I think it's conclusion two, because we cannot say the first conclusion follows. In this case, because here transportation by road and distance is more, and hence it is costlier than sea. But if we compare it with the same distance by sea and road, we don't know what's the answer.
Absolutely, very good. Yes. So I suppose the only thing that we can conclude for sure is option B. Good, great. Okay. Next. So the manager humiliated Sachin in the presence of his colleagues. Conclusion. The manager did not like Sachin. Two, Sachin was not popular with his colleagues.
So I think it's neither.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't conclude, right? Very good. We can't conclude for sure as to what an answer could be. Yes, I think neither is fine. Okay, so women's organization in India have welcomed the amendment of the Industrial Employment Rule 1946 to curb sexual harassment at the workplace. So women's organization in India have welcomed the amendment of the Industrial Employment Rule 1946 to curb sexual harassment at the workplace. Conclusion is sexual harassment of women at workplace is more prevalent in India as compared to our developed countries. And option two is many organizations in India will stop recruiting women to avoid such problems.
So I think it's neither.
It's neither, sir.
Yeah. So all they tell you is that in the statement is that these women's organizations in India have welcomed the amendment of the Industrial Employment Rule 1946 to curb sexual harassment at workplace. Right. So that's the statement. Therefore, many Indian organizations will stop recruiting women to avoid such problems. If they were so backward, then there was no need to uh, there's no need to have curbed there's no need to have amended the act itself, right? Yeah, so I think neither of them follow. It's option D. So next, Nation X faced growing international opposition for its decision to explode 8 nuclear weapons at its test site. Okay, so it faced international opposition for its decision to explode 8 nuclear weapons at its test site. So the first conclusion is the citizens of the nation favored the decision. We don't know about this. Some powerful countries do not want other nations to become as powerful as they are.
Neither.
Again, neither, right? Very good. Because you can't conclude. You put it therefore, and neither of them fit. Very good. I think it's again option D. So 34, in a highly centralized power structure in which even senior cabinet ministers are prepared to reduce themselves to pathetic countrymen or yes men, airing views that are primarily intended to anticipate or reflect the prime minister's own performances, there can be no place for any consensus that is quite different from real or contrived unanimity of opinion expressed through well orchestrated endorsement of the leader's actions. Okay, so the ministers play safe by not giving anti government views. The Prime Minister does not encourage his colleagues to render their own opinion.
Both, sir.
Both. Okay, any other answer? I don't know what countries mean. I think they mean counties or yes men, right? By yes men, they mean airing views that are primarily intended to anticipate or reflect the prime minister's own performances. There can be no place for any consensus that is quite different from real or contrived unanimity of opinion expressed through a well orchestrated endorsement of the leader's action. Therefore, the ministers play safe by not giving anti government views, or therefore, the Prime Minister does not encourage his colleagues to render their own views. Be careful. Does two fit? I think one fits. How about two? Going only by this I think it's Pacific counties. But county is they mean ally.
So
De
the
facto
second
it
one
is
can be inferred.
inferred. Yeah, it can be inferred, but can it be concluded? See,
Oh, sorry.
pathetic allies, I'll just change that, or yes man, airing views that are primarily intended to anticipate or reflect the Prime Minister's own performances. There can be no place for any consensus that is quite different from real or contrived unanimity of opinion expressed through a well orchestrated endorsement of the leader's action. Right? Contrived means artificial. You could make a note of it if you're interested. Contrived means something that seems, it has two meanings. Contrived, one is something that seems artificial, and the other is to have finished doing something. You could say that I contrived in getting good marks in CLAT exam, something like that. So that's what contrived means. Um, okay, so I think, see, from this statement alone, we can definitely conclude that the ministers are playing safe, but we can't conclude that the Prime Minister does not encourage his colleagues to render their own, which might be the case, but it can't be concluded. I suppose, would you say, suppose this was an assumption, would you say it's implicit?
So,
Yeah. Okay, I think so. I think that this is definitely a conclusion. This can be concluded. This really cannot be concluded.
but then, like, we can also have an assumption as a conclusion, right? Like, an assumption can be, in the end, you can say, okay, so the conclusion is the assumption in a way. Although, like, an assumption is unstated, but then here also, since it's not stated in the statement itself, you could have it as a conclusion.
Suppose
right?
we say does not seem to. Then yeah, fine. The PM does not seem to encourage his colleagues to render their own views. But if you say does not encourage, we don't know. From this passage, we can't conclude that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I think we're running short. So we just quickly finish that. Statements. Okay, so National Aluminium Company has moved India from a position of a shortage to self-sufficiency in the metal. So they've gone from a shortage to self-sufficiency in the metal. Okay, and the conclusions are previously India had to import aluminium. With this speed, you can soon become a foreign exchange earner. How about that? See, they say that India has moved from a position of shortage to self-sufficiency in the metal. So at one point it had a shortage, and from the word self-sufficiency, we can infer that aluminium was being imported, right? So therefore, had to import aluminium is true. Previously, India had to import aluminium.
Yes, sir.
But is that a conclusion? With this speed, you can soon become a foreign exchange earner. I suppose one could be concluded, but two cannot be concluded. Right? Because they don't talk about speed, so I think the answer is there. I think we'll quickly go to inference. I think that's pretty straightforward. I think we'll do some inference quickly. I think just stay with me for another 5 minutes. What's the 33rd answer is what's 33rd? Nation X faced growing international opposition for its decision to explode 8 nuclear weapons. The citizens and some, I think it's neither, right? It was neither. Yeah, neither. It's option D. 33rd is option D. I think somebody asked me in chat. Okay, so should there be a law to punish parents who get their minor child married? Arguments. Okay, yeah, yes, a minor child is psychologically not prepared to conceive a baby. No, this has been a custom prevailing since many centuries.
Both are not strong. Like neither are strong.
So neither.
D.
D, sir.
The first one.
Is psychologically, look, should there be a law to punish parents who get their minor children married? It's about minor children here, it's about a minor girl. And yeah, it is neither. I think it's pretty clearly neither. If neither one nor two is strong. Okay, should there be conducted classes? I think that's what they meant. Should there be institute conducted classes in remote villages? Or should the institute conduct classes? Should an institute, yeah, should an institute conduct classes in remote villages? Argument, yes. This will help students who belong to villages and cannot visit urban areas for studies. Right? And two, no, this is not an economically viable proposal as the number of students who attend such classes cannot contribute to break even. What's the answer?
Either one or two, sir.
Both are strong.
But you can't have both, right? Because one says yes, one says no.
Very good.
But then, sir, isn't it just that they're strong? It doesn't say that it should be valid or it can be valid. Just saying that both of them are strong. That's it.
If both of them are strong, then they should be strong in the same direction, I think.
Okay, that way. Fine. Okay.
Meaning that if the strength of one makes the other weak, then that's not what we're looking for. But so they both are strong in the same direction. That is to say, they're independently strong. So if one is strong, then two is weak. If two is weak, then one is strong. Very good. So I think it's either one or two is strong. Option C, 37. 38. Are there any good politicians left in this world? Yes. So many poor people are sustaining themselves and improving economically. No, there is nothing in this world which is completely good or completely bad.
So neither.
Yes, sir, neither.
Neither.
Yeah, it doesn't answer the question. Neither of them are able to answer the question. Fine, so we'll do 39. Are there sanctuaries which are meant to protect the endangered animals necessary? Yes, they are necessary as it is our responsibility to conserve environment and to provide posterity with a better world to live in. Strong, right? No, they are a huge burden on our receding economy. Again, I think it's either one or two. Or what do you think?
So
Yes,
I think
either one or two.
I think it's A. So we can conclude that it is a burden, but at the same time it is necessary, and we should not think it's a burden.
Yeah, but when you talk about receding economies, we don't know what we mean. It could mean poverty, it could mean unemployment. It could mean people dying of poverty. We don't really know what they mean. So when there are people dying of poverty, can we really afford to? I'm not making a moral judgment. I'm not into politics, but that's what they probably mean. But here we're looking probably at a logical way. And and as you say, yeah, you're right. If this is true, then this is completely false. Then if we are able to treat environmental conservation as a responsibility, and then the very thought that we should treat, we should consider the burden of the economic burden as a factor is false. On the other hand, if you were to consider the economic burden as a criteria, um, then environmental conservation is going to become false. So I think it's either one or two. So if either one or two, I think that if either one or two is strong, by this what they mean is that the strength of one argument is going to weaken the other argument, weakens the other argument, right? So they're not mutually exclusive in their strength. Okay, so should the teacher be stopped from beating the student? Should teachers be stopped from beating students? Yes, child psychologists say that beating hinders the learning process of child. How about that?
Yes,
That
sir.
is strong. That is strong.
Strong, sir.
No, spare the cane and spoil the child.
No, sir.
It's also strong, sir.
I don't think it's strong.
Yeah, I think it's going a bit too far.
Yeah. So sometimes when we solve questions like arguments and conclusions, we bring out our moral values into it.
Yeah,
we
absolutely. Yeah.
between the logical value and the moral value we have within us.
Okay, I think we'll go for A.
So what's the answer in the answer key?
It's not very present. I think the key says C.
Okay. Hmm.
I don't know.
So I
But
think it's A. I don't know.
yeah, I don't think that they'll ask you this in an exam anyway. But they could change it, you know. They could change it from a teacher beating to something that's different. I don't know. Okay, let's finish this. Should there be an upper age limit for a person to assume the post of a prime minister? Argument: yes. A leader must only be wise and experienced, should not only be wise and experienced, but also energetic and young enough to understand the trends of the world. No, older the leader, better he is, um, as they can lead more efficiently owing to their experience.
Again, C, sir.
Yeah, I think it's C.
Okay. Because they don't talk about what it means. I think I should have a word. Fine. Okay. Should Siemens, a hardware company, enter the software industry? Okay. Yes. If there is an indigenous software development wing, the research and development of hardware would be more effective. No, software industry is in recession.
Only the first one, sir.
Yeah, the fact that the industry is in recession probably means that every industry is recession, and also that doesn't weaken the argument. Yes, the industry is in recession, but I have a hardware wing, and suppose one is true. Yes, there is an indigenous software development wing. The research and development of hardware would be uh, more effective, and also, yeah, it's going to be more effective. Fine. So I think only one is right. Let's do 43. It is wise on the part of the government to disinvest from PSUs. Yes, overheads of PSUs are increasing, making the total cost of production higher and higher. Fine, I think that is strong. No, the fundamental purpose of PSU is to provide employment to the people.
No, sir.
How about that then? I think it's C again, right?
But
Yeah.
sir, the fundamental purpose of PSUs is not to provide employment. I mean, it's not the there are many reasons for doing it.
Okay. But if this is true, then what?
Yeah, it would work, yeah.
See, you could even say here that, the whole spare the thing nonsense. You could say that even that is true, right? I mean, that could, if you could question that, then see,
Right, right.
I suppose you should
My bad,
assume
my bad.
that. Yeah, fine. I'm sorry. Okay, so okay, should yoga be introduced as a part of the curriculum by
So,
schools? Yeah,
so can I leave the meeting? I have my test tomorrow.
yeah. I think you won't miss much. Okay, fine. All the best. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, should yoga be introduced as a part of the curriculum by schools? Yes, this will help students improve their mental health. No, this will not help students improve studentship qualities, but will burden them with extra school hours.
So what's the 44th answer?
I think we didn't do 44, right?
Yeah, we didn't do that.
Yeah, I think we'll do 45 and then go back to 44. Okay, look, there are 50 questions. I think we'll stop here because I think we kind of started at 5. I think we'll stop here, and I think I'll arrange for the keys to be sent on the WhatsApp. I think because we haven't done them, but you please try to spend 5 or 10 minutes going through them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I think I'll arrange for the keys to be sent on the WhatsApp group.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, bye.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Good luck. Yeah, bye.